Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel Pickup Books. I am Komal and today's video is a collaboration with some of my favorite booktubers. Since September is the month for World War II, I thought why not recommend books from World War II fiction. So each booktuber will be recommending one book on the same theme. Without any further ado, let's get into the video. The book that I would like to recommend is All the Lights We Cannot See by Anthony Doerr. The main theme of the book is survival and endurance. All the characters in this book are forced to endure the war, but Mary and Werner are determined with strength and courage that they need to survive. It is a carefully constructed book with words like poetry and premise like a war. It is a book that you cannot forget about. There are so many beautiful quotes, and one of my favorite quotes is, "Open your eyes and see what you can with them before they close forever." It is so beautiful, isn't it?
Hello everyone, I am Shalu from the Booktube channel Shalu Walia. Komal asked me to recommend a book based on World War II, and the book that I will like to recommend is A Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. This is such a transformative and life-affirming read. In the book, the author chronicles the life in concentration camps and delineates the psychological mindsets of the prisoners during the war. A prominent psychiatrist before the war, Viktor Frankl was able to observe how he and the others coped with the horrors in the concentration camp. Brimming with illuminating insights, the author explores, analyzes, and shares his harrowing experiences of living in a concentration camp during Hitler's regime. The author believes that a man's deepest desire is to find meaning and purpose. He says that the suffering ceases to be suffering at the moment it finds its meaning. This outstanding book has sold more than 16 million copies. It is an exploration of what it truly means to live. I would highly recommend checking it out. You won't be disappointed. So this was my recommendation. Thank you, Komal, for having me on your channel.
Hey guys, I'm Jyotsna from Jyotsna's Bookscapades, and Komal asked me which one is my favorite World War II book. And for me, this has to be The Last Thing You Surrender by Leonard Pitts Jr. because of two reasons. The first one is that generally when you look at World War II books, it's heavily concentrated on Nazi Germany and the Allied European forces, but this one is actually set in the US. And the second point being that this is not your typical historical fiction. So generally when you read historical fiction, it's very plot oriented, but this one is character oriented. So it makes it a literary historical fictional read. And what is this about, right? Basically, we have a bunch of characters of different races, black and white, who have been put into situations because of the war, to just survive. And all of these characters learn something at the end of the day through their experience in the war. And another part is that it also focuses on a lot of social issues that the US still faces today, including the Jim Crow laws, that is segregation and racism. So it's like an overall literary package which you will enjoy if you've read a lot of World War II fiction. Honestly, I think that everyone should read the book, especially because of the writing and how Leonard Pitts Jr. has spun the story. The narrative is very nice. The character development is chef's kiss, and everything that actually takes place from the first page to the last page, you will be hooked onto it because the characters themselves are lovable as well as loathable. So yeah.
Hello everyone, my name is Kiran and my channel is called Noob Readers. First of all, I really want to thank Komal for making me a part of this collaboration. So today we need to recommend books for the World War II, and the book that I am going to recommend is The Boy in the Striped Pajamas by John Boyne. Now this book comes under the Holocaust fiction category, and it is about two 9-year-old kids. One is the son of a Nazi officer called Bruno, and the other is a Jewish boy called Shmuel. Now Shmuel is basically a prisoner in the concentration camp of Auschwitz, and Bruno's father got transferred to Auschwitz because he becomes the commandant, and now Bruno and Shmuel become friends. Now because Shmuel is a prisoner in the concentration camp, he is always wearing the striped pajama, which is basically the prisoner's uniform. So that's why Bruno always calls Schmilz the boy in the striped pajamas. Now, because this book is written from the point of view of 9-year-old kids, the language of this book is very easy. So it is a very easy to read book, and the story is also very heartbreaking, especially the ending. The ending of this book will definitely make you cry. Now, if you are a beginner, then this will be the best book for you because it's so easy to read, and it is about a very, very important history, which is basically the Holocaust. Now, obviously, this is a fiction, so it's not the historically accurate depiction of the Holocaust, but because it's written from the point of view of children, I personally really love this book because it is so innocent and it shows how a 9-year-old feels and whatever that was happening around these two kids. So yes, it's a very heart-touching book and everyone should read it, and this is my recommendation. I absolutely loved it and rated it as 4 stars, and I recommend this book. Please go and read it, and do tell me in the comments down below, do you like it or not?
Hi guys, I'm Shrishti and thank you so much Komal for making me a part of this video. It's such an honor to be a part of this collaboration with so many of my favorites. So Komal asked me to talk about a book about World War or on the backdrop of World War. So the book that I would be talking about is The Book Thief by Mark Juzak. So basically this book is on the backdrop of Nazi Germany during the pre-World War II era. So this story is about a little book thief Liesel Memminger, who is growing up in a world where being a communist is a curse, where being a Jew is a curse, and she finds comforts in books like all of us. And the narration of the book is completely different. It was very new for me. It was very unique. The narrative that is there in the book is by death. So the book whole story has been explained by the perspective of death, which was a little creepy at times, but very, very different and unique for me. So that's why I love this book so much. Second, the relationships of Liesel with every character in the book, turned out so beautiful by the end, be it with her foster father, be it with her best friend, be it with her Max, who was seeking shelter in their home, with everyone, even with her foster mother, whom she didn't like much. The relationships by the end of this book turned out so beautiful and so amazing. I loved it. I loved it so much. The characters were round. They were developing throughout the story. The story was brilliant. It was beautiful. There's nothing in this book which I didn't like. I just love this book so much. So yeah, if you haven't read this book already, which I'm very sure so many of you have because the book is everywhere, but still, if you haven't read this book already, I would ask you to please go for it, and I really hope you enjoy reading it. And again, thank you for making me a part of this.
Hello, I'm Riniraj. So Komal asked me to share a book on World War II, which I like. The book I will share is The English Patient. Now, The English Patient is a Booker Prize winning novel. It revolves around World War II and 4 characters who are in a villa. There's a nurse tending to an English patient whose identity is initially unknown. As we move ahead in the novel, we realize that Hannah herself is suffering with shell shock partially. In the course of the novel, we come across multiple discoveries of different sorts. Now, this is a very interesting and a renowned work as well. So this was my recommendation on the occasion of World War II for you to know more about this period. Thank you again, Komal, for inviting me. Bye.
Hey everyone. First of all, thank you so much, Komal, for giving me an opportunity to be a part of this wonderful collaboration video. So the book which I'm going to recommend is a very popular book indeed. A book, I think, which completes the war literature. I'm talking about The Diary of a Young Girl by Anne Frank. So this book was written when Germany was under the full control of Hitler, or let's say during the time of World War. Now, during that time, Anne and her family went into hiding at her father's office building because the Nazis had increased their tyranny and oppression to such an extent that it became quite impossible for the family to live in Germany. Anne's 13th birthday, her father gifted her a diary. And in that diary, Anne began to pen down everything which was in her heart. In her diary, she wrote about her childhood experiences, her desires, her future plans, her relationships, and her diary became her best friend. Until now, everything was going very smooth in Annie's life, and it was only then when Hitler's terror starts spreading in Netherlands as well, and it was only then the family decides to move to her father's office building in Amsterdam. And that's when Anne starts writing on social and political issues of that time. And we get to see that how a 13-year-old girl goes through that entire painful phase and writes and still manages to write with such positive attitude and finesse. The diary clearly highlights the difficult and painful circumstances Jewish people had to go through at the time of Holocaust, and the details with which Anne Frank is writing her diary is simply overwhelming. The novel ends quite abruptly because the Nazis intrude their hiding place in Amsterdam, and later on we see that readers see that Otto Frank, who happens to be Annie's father and the only surviving member of the family, finds Annie's diary and decides to publish it. So yes, this was my recommendation, and I genuinely think that everyone should read this book, because the book not only gives you insights about the World War era or Holocaust era, but also prepares you to have positive and optimistic attitude in life and do not bow down before adverse circumstances. So yeah, that's it. And once again, thank you, Komal, for having me on your channel.
Two armies that fight each other is like the one large army that commits suicide. Henry Barbues, 1916. The novel that I want to recommend you is Beneath a Scarlet Sky. This book is based on a true story of Pino Lela, a forgotten war hero. Pino joins an underground railroad helping Jews escape over the Alps after his family's home in Milan is destroyed by Allied bombs. Pino's parents force him to enlist as a German soldier to protect himself. After being injured, Pino is hired as a personal driver of Hitler. Pino endures the horrors of the war and the Nazi occupations by fighting in secret. Now that he has an opportunity to spy for the Allies inside the German High Command. During the height of World War II, the 17-year-old boy Pino Lela from Milanese navigates the dangers of Nazi-occupied Italy. As I said earlier, the novel is based on the life of Pino Lela, who was an elderly man when he decided to tell his story. Pino's memory of events, interviews with Holocaust historians, Italian Catholic priests, and members of the partisan resistance, as well as weeks spent researching in war archives in America, United Kingdom, Italy and Germany, served as the basis of Sullivan's novel. So guys, this was the book that... Hey, say thank you to Komal. Oh, sorry. Thank you, Komal, for having me on your channel, and love the idea for the topic of this collaboration video. And I'm so glad that I'm part of this video.
Hi, this is Shmeet Kaur from Kitabi Bully Ladki. Firstly, I want to thank Komal for making me a part of this collaboration video. Now, talking about World War II, I guess we all know that how Britishers made India a part of this World War II without consent. Yes, India was made a part of World War II without taking advice or without even considering Indians or their decision or their point of view. Thus, Indians fought in this World War II, but for Britishers. But their contribution as Indian soldiers is highly neglected not only in Indian academic history but in global history as well. That brings to my today's recommendation, and that is Farthest Field by Raghu Karnad. Now, this is the non-fiction book about three boys, Manik, Gani and Bobby, who are all relatives. The book starts with the life of this young, rich Parsi boy, Bobby, from Calicut, whose family is loyal to Britishers, and then the book moves along with other two protagonists. All these three people were soldiers that fought in World War II. Now, the book not only deals with their part as soldiers, but is a very well researched account on their family, on their backgrounds. Also, at that time, how Parsi community was seen in India. Because firstly, it was minority community. At that time, it was still a colonized country. So Parsis were seen as refugees and not as, our own people. So still people had their own doubts with them. And also it talks about so much of caste and discrimination, not only in the Indian army, but also in the society. We have to keep in mind that at that time Indian army was not very patriotic because it still consisted of Britishers. It still consisted of people that were just there for salary, and Indian army was basically liable, or basically they pledged their loyalty towards a crown. So basically Indian army was not patriotic, and at times people had this dilemma that for whom they are fighting, for their nation or for the Britishers. So this book is a very well researched account on all these factors. I'll be very, very honest. This book is not an easy read, not beginner friendly, and also dry at points. But if you're someone who is very much into Indian history, specifically war history, then this is a gem that you cannot afford to miss. So yes, this was my recommendation for World War II month. Thank you.
That's it for today's video. Thank you for watching. I thoroughly enjoyed making this video and I'm pretty sure you enjoy watching it as well. I'll put the links to their YouTube channel in the description box, so go give them a huge shout out. If you enjoy watching this video, then leave a like, share it, subscribe to my channel and also their channel as well. I will see you super soon. Until then, take care and bye-bye. I thoroughly enjoyed making this video. Sorry.